All right, I might start off the presentation. So, hello everyone. I'll let everyone just come in as they please if they're not in yet. However, yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining today. My name is Georgia and I am the Queensland Branch Manager for Recovery Partners. I am an accredited exercise physiologist and senior rehab consultant as well. And obviously today I will be talking about how to prevent and recover from burnout in the workplace. As you probably know, I'm not a psychological consultant or psych or counsellor, but I wanted to present on this topic today because burnout is something I have personally experienced before. I know what burnout can feel like and the impact it can have on all aspects of your well-being. And due to this, I am quite passionate about the topic and increasing awareness of burnout, especially on how to recognise the early signs, how we can support someone that is in burnout, but obviously most importantly, how can we prevent people from getting to burnout in the first place? So to start us off, I would like to do a quick poll to get a feel for where everyone is at who is joining today. So thinking about work at the moment, how would you describe your current energy levels? We are going to have a poll pop up shortly. So yeah, please put through, in your thoughts, either you're thriving at the moment, I'm doing okay, but feeling a little stretch, I'm often tired or overwhelmed, or I'm running on empty. Wait a little bit longer, but I will say for me, I feel like I'm in between. I'm doing okay. I'm feeling a little stretch and I'm feeling a bit tired and overwhelmed. So a little bit, I know it's in between, but yeah, I feel like that is me at the moment. And I feel like that is very much similar to a lot of people that are listening in today, and probably why it is important that, we obviously talk about burnout and obviously why this conversation is obviously so important. So thanks, everyone. We'll move on. So what is burnout? According to the World Health Organization, burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion that it can develop from prolonged and excessive demands at work. I will say that it is important to note the difference between everyday workplace stress and burnout. We can all experience periods of stress, whether that is day to day or, a busy period during the week. However, burnout is different. It tends to develop over time when workplace stress becomes prolonged and starts to affect all aspects of our life. So why are we talking about burnout? It's incredibly common. Recent data by Beyond Blue found that 1 in 2 Australians have experienced burnout in the workplace, with 18 to 29-year-olds reporting the highest rates of burnout. And within that study, the leading factors and within the workplace of driving burnout was inappropriate workload, lack of management support, and inflexible work conditions. Considering this, and when we do talk about burnout, it's key to highlight that it's not just about the individual and managing their stress better, it's also about what's happening in the workplace and how the workplace can assist and support an individual. I'm now going to share a short 3-minute video on what burnout can look like, but also what recovering from burnout can look like. While you are watching, you might be able to recognise some signs that resonate with you. I feel like when I was watching it, there is definitely some things that, you can be guilty of. If I will play it, if it is not working for you, I know that the girls are going to share the link within the chat, but hopefully the sound and the video works for everyone. So as we saw in the video, burnout can show up in a number of different ways, and it won't necessarily look the same for everyone. For the signs and symptoms of burnout, we can broadly think about them across 4 different areas. We have emotional, physical, behavioural, and cognitive. For emotional, you might find yourself becoming detached, feeling quite helpless, and you also might feel an increased anxiety when you might have never experienced anxiety before. Physically, you might feel like you are increasingly exhausted, you have low energy even after rest. You might have a full night's sleep, but you wake up extremely exhausted still, but also you might have difficulty sleeping. Behaviourally, you might find yourself or others who may be experiencing burnout be withdrawal. They might start avoiding responsibility, but also increased absenteeism, whether that's from work or personal things as well. As well as cognitively, you might find that, you have difficulty concentrating. Maybe you are having issues with your memory, which may lead to, poor judgment and racing thoughts, or potentially brain fog. So it is important to note that, these signs and symptoms vary from individual to individual. And just because you are experiencing potentially one of these things, it doesn't automatically mean that you are in burnout, but it can definitely lead to early signs, and being able to identify that is important. So with that in mind, let's do another quick poll. I just wanted to ask, have you experienced one or more of these symptoms recently at work? Great, thank you, everyone. I would say that yes, I agree. I'm mostly yes occasionally as well. I feel like it's definitely not an individual experience, that's for sure. So what are the main causes of burnout? I know I did touch on it earlier with the Beyond Blue research paper. There isn't usually one single cause of burnout, and burnout tends to develop when workplace stresses are prolonged and we don't have enough opportunity or resources to manage and recover from them. So some of the main causes of burnout, and of course this list, it's not limited to this list of causes, but this can include high job demands. So, you might be having an extremely high workload, or you are working long hours. You go home and finish off a couple of extra emails or reports after your work day. Low job control, you feel like you have limited autonomy and flexibility in your role. You have poor support from managers or your colleagues. Poor workplace relationships, including conflict and bullying within the workplace. Having a lack of recognition and feeling undervalued in your role or in the workplace. Poor work-life balance, where you feel like you have difficulty switching off at the end of the day, and an unhealthy workplace where there's poor boundaries and chronic stress due to that. So what can I do personally to prevent burnout? So firstly, we're going to start on, what can the individual do? And then later we are going to move on to what can a workplace and managers or supervisors do for their workplace. So what can I do personally? First off, being able to recognise the signs early, being able to recognise your own warning signs and making sure that we're acting early rather than pushing through. Touching back on the poll, you can recognise that, yes, occasionally you do feel those symptoms, but being able to identify when you need to put something in place to, ensure that that's not becoming prolonged. We're setting boundaries around work and making sure you're actually switching off at the end of the day. I find when I do work from home, I feel like it's really difficult to, start at an appropriate time and finish at an appropriate time. I feel like it tends to blend into one and I don't really have a lunch break. Whereas I feel like it's really important to, you know, set those boundaries and actually be able to disconnect at different times, whether that is at the end of the day or having a lunch break. If your workload is becoming unmanageable, make sure that you speak up, ask for help and have a conversation with it, whether that's management, your direct supervisor or colleagues about your priorities, and also with possible delegation of your work where possible. Of course, prioritising rest and recovery, making sure that you're taking your breaks. Like I said, your lunch breaks are, you know, there for a reason. Use your annual leave and give yourself opportunities to properly recharge. I'll say that last month I took a random Friday off to give myself a long weekend. I had no plans at all. However, I feel like that was just a good mini recharge that I needed for myself. To be able to give myself a little bit of a break. And I feel like that, helped me a little bit. Further to this, it is really important to have a life outside of work. Making time for your friends, families, hobbies, relationships, and things that bring you joy. Of course, work is obviously important, but it shouldn't become your whole life. Remembering to look after the basics, prioritising sleep, getting movement in, whatever that is for you, and of course, eating well. Talking and debriefing with appropriate people when particularly difficult or emotionally demanding conversations have took place. As an health professional myself, I feel sometimes, we can become a bit of accidental counsellors, and I feel like people probably in their different roles feel the exact same way. So being able to debrief and, offload where appropriate really does help reduce that mental load if you do feel like, you've had quite a, emotionally demanding day. And finally, ask for support when you need it, whether that is from your manager, colleagues, your EAP through your employer or a professional. Before we move on to, what managers and your employers can do to prevent burnout, I want everyone to take a moment to think of what we've just discussed. And if you could choose one thing to do this week that could help you switch off, recharge, and protect your energy, what would that be? Think of this kind of like a bit of a burnout preventer. And if you are comfortable, please pop yours into the chat. And maybe you can get some ideas from some people, what you can implement this week. I feel like for me, I need to prioritize taking my dog for a walk without my phone. I feel like, you do get home and just want to, do nothing. But I know that that's his, thing that he wants to do at the end of the day as well. So making that a priority for me. Amazing. There is plenty of suggestions in the chat, and I hope that, everyone can hopefully actually implement that one small thing this week to, like I said, turn it into a burnout preventer for you and making sure that you are prioritizing, those things for yourself to make sure that you're, taking time for yourself this week. So as mentioned before, preventing burnout isn't just the responsibility of the individual at all. Managers and employers do have an important role as well to prevent burnout. And I feel like this is a key thing to prevent burnout in individuals within your workplace. So firstly, know your team, check in regularly, and be aware of those early warning signs. If someone starts to, become withdrawn, exhausted, or you find that their performance changes, making sure that you're checking in early rather than waiting until things escalate and they are in burnout or they're not attending work, making sure that you are catching that early. Secondly, support. create an environment where people actually feel comfortable telling you, I'm struggling and I've got too much on my plate. It's, I think being able to have that open conversation with your staff is really important, and having them feel comfortable to do that is really key. Of course, as well, recognition is important for people too. At Recovery Partners, we do have our Yellow Jersey recognition program, as well as our random acts of kindness initiatives, where people are recognised company-wide for their efforts and contributions to their work, which I feel like is, a really great part, of our business, so that people do feel recognised within their role. Because sometimes, you come to work, you do the hard yards, and sometimes you can get you down if you aren't, being appreciated and recognised for, the efforts that you are doing. Then we need to manage the work. Is your staff's workloads realistic? I think you need to, making sure that we are, constantly reviewing people's workloads, and not forgetting, and just constantly, giving them work even if they aren't, flagging with you that they are struggling, making sure that you are being proactive and reassessing their workloads on a consistent basis. Are expectations and priorities clear within their role? Do employees have autonomy over their work? And if someone is obviously struggling, look at what's contributing to that, rather than putting all of the responsibility back on the individual, and making sure that they're doing the changes and raising the things themselves. And finally, if you are a manager or a supervisor, or even a colleague, I think creating the culture yourselves is incredibly important. Encourage people to take their breaks and actually use their leave. I feel like some people, tend to keep up their leave so that they can take, longer periods of time off. But like I said before, even just one day to create a long weekend, I feel like has really, helped me. And I feel like there's one, I'm going to take one in a couple of months too. Being able to actually respect people's boundaries and actually model those behaviours as leaders is really key. At Recovery Partners, we have initiatives such as our Doona Day, which is one day a year where someone's able to take a day off, no questions asked. But it can be a Monday, it can be a Friday. No questions asked. It's self-explanatory, but Doona Day, a bit of a mental health day, etc. They can use that day for whatever they like. And of course, our right to disconnect policy, which is legislation now where, employees do have that right to disconnect from work at the end of the day. So ultimately, we want to create a workplace where people feel comfortable speaking up early, feeling valued for the work that they do, and have genuine opportunities to switch off and recover. So what happens if you've moved beyond prevention and you're already experiencing burnout? Recovery, like the signs and symptoms, isn't a one size fits all. Recovery can be different for all individuals. However, on the screen are some steps to take that hopefully will help someone recover from burnout. So the first step is just recognizing and acknowledging that something needs to change. Recognizing recovery isn't just about taking a few days off and then returning back to the same situation. You obviously got to burn out for a reason, so something needs to change. Where possible, we need to be able to identify and reduce what's contributing to the burnout. Communicate with our workplace regarding those changes and supports that are required to help you recover. And making sure that, you are discussing what, workload needs to be changed if possible. Increasing that, ensuring that you do have that flexibility. Maybe you do need to work from home more if allowed in your workplace, and ensuring that you do have that support. Of course, prioritising recovery and giving yourself genuine time and space to recover. If you do need, making sure that you are seeking that professional support when needed, whether that is the EAP through your employer, going to your own GP, speaking to other professionals, psychologists or a counsellor. And importantly, if you have experienced burnout, returning back to, like I said before, returning to your usual workload, returning back to the same habits may need to, it might need to take time to gradually return to that same work. So having those discussions and what can be implemented to change to support a successful, whether that is a return to work, will help you obviously recover from that burnout. So to summarize everything, preventing burnout, I think, across this, it is a shared responsibility. It's not just up to the individual. It's not just up to managers and co-workers or organisations and employers. Together, everyone has a role to prevent burnout, obviously, in the workplace. So as individuals, we need to recognise the signs, respond early, and give ourselves the opportunities to recover. As managers and co-workers, we need to be able to notice when someone is, seemingly different or something might have changed. Ask them upfront how they are going and be able to provide that support for them. And as organisations and employers, we need to create workplaces that are obviously designed to prevent burnout rather than simply responding once it has already occurred. So how can we help at Recovery Partners? At Recovery Partners, we offer several services that do support both the individuals as well as the workplace. We do offer a wide range of psychological services at Recovery Partners that are offered by qualified psychological consultants like psychologists and counsellors. So we do offer EAP as well as psychological health monitoring and early intervention assessments. Where employers can have people assess before they commence a role, or that they have some concerns about an individual that is already at work. They can undertake assessments with us to hopefully get them the support that they need with that. So if you do wish to obviously find out more, please scan the QR code which links you to our website and our psychological service offerings. And at the end there is our email that you can send through if you do have any inquiries or questions. So that does bring everything short, sharp, conversation about burnout today. I didn't want to make it too long because it is about burnout and doing too much. So hopefully a few of you have taken a few little things. It doesn't need to be a massive thing where you're taking all tips, but hopefully taking away, even if it's the burnout preventer, making sure that you are implementing those things day to day to prevent burnout. And hopefully these conversations are encouraging everyone to look after you and set boundaries. And that is the end. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and I'll answer the best I obviously possibly can, and we can go from there. Great. So there is, and I know that there will be a couple of questions that might be a little bit more technical around the service offerings that we can provide, at Recovery Partners. And if you do, I know that the girls are going to record all questions. And if there is anything that you have asked that we can potentially, provide further clarity on, we'll answer your question separately and send you an email. So to ask a question, how do you measure whether burnout prevention initiatives are actually working? I personally, because I am in a management role myself, I feel like if yourself as well as your team are implementing those things, you have people that are happy at work, are coming into the office and wanting to, engage in lunchtime conversations, engage in the, the workplace culture. I find that, if someone is struggling or, they do tend to become a bit withdrawn, I feel like, that those preventers are working because they are engaged in the process, and, they aren't coming to you and saying that they're struggling. I feel like that's a key thing. Next one, I think, what should I do if a colleague is experiencing burnout? I think if you do identify that someone is potentially struggling, because sometimes those conversations and approaching people is difficult. Sometimes they might not be in burnout or experiencing, those difficulties, but I think just checking in a very casual way. It doesn't need to be, especially if you're in management, I think not coming to it in a performance, issue lens. I think coming to them, from a genuine place, I think is really, really important. And I will say that when I was experiencing burnout, it was really hard to accept help and actually have the conversation that I am struggling. So I think just gently approaching it with the person and just saying that you have recognized that they, are looking a little bit different, or, they're not engaging, or seem a little bit withdrawn. I think telling them that you have recognized a difference might open that conversation for them. I think that is, step number one. But then obviously offering that support, advising that, there's obviously EAP that they can, reach out to. So yeah, I think that having that conversation to start is the key thing. Tanya's question around, with the 2 recognition programs you mentioned that obviously we offer, has internally to recognise the efforts of employees, does this create isolation with other employees? Okay, yeah. E.g., like at a school when only certain people were generally selected or the same people were. Can you expand a little bit on how these programs operate? Yeah, great. So I guess touching on the random acts of kindness, it is random and anonymous. So we have set up, so essentially the initiative is that each worker within Recovery Partners has $50 allocated to them, and they can randomly give it to someone. It doesn't have to be the whole $50. It could be split up, maybe it's $2.25 or, whatever split you like. But you essentially email our random acts of kindness email and essentially say, I wish to, be able to give this to so-and-so, and you can leave a message, or it literally can be, I want to send it to this person, and provide, nothing, or you can leave a message, etc., and put your name on it. So that's anonymous, so it wouldn't create isolation. With the yellow jersey recognition program, so how that happens is that essentially we have an email chain. So if you feel as though someone within your team or the organization is doing something, then, that obviously needs to be, flagged. It happens to everyone. Everyone does get yellow jerseys within Recovery Partners, and I personally don't feel as though it does create isolation. I think that, everyone within the business has had their fair share of, yellow jerseys. And essentially what happens is at the end of each month, there is like a yellow jersey winner who gets announced, who either, it's not necessarily the most votes, but it's the reason why you're getting the yellow jersey and the contribution that they had. So yeah, I feel as though they don't tend to cause isolation. I feel like they do a really good job of actually being able to recognize everyone, and not whether it is for something small or quite, significant as well. Okay, there's a couple of other questions. I probably will answer one more. I'm just having a look at the Q&A. Yeah, interesting question. Are we seeing burnout because people are working too hard, or because they are working hard without enough meaning, control, or support? I would say, I would honestly say that it's a combination of both. I feel like, and like we have, have said, it is on the individual to make sure that they are, implementing those preventers themselves and putting in boundaries. But on the flip side, when someone is working hard, it's important for managers and employers to ensure that their role has meaning. They have that control and they do have that support. So I would say that it is a combo of both, but it's when both parties are not effectively implementing those preventer strategies. That's my personal opinion anyway. Don't know, and if any other people have any, obviously thoughts on that. I'll finish off with one more and then I'll let everyone go. What strategies do you recommend for workplaces where employees raise their concerns about experiencing burnout, but management dismisses this, or will not allow employees to make adjustments? Send them this webinar and make sure that they, obviously recognize the importance and the impact of burnout. I think, I feel as though everyone needs to be able to recognize the importance of a work-life balance and being able to, identify that, people come to work, whether that is for pleasure, that they are, have a passion, or they're just going to work because they need the money. I think, I don't particularly know some specific strategies. I feel like that, they need to, more just recognize and know that burnout is, so significant, and it can have it's so prevalent now. And I feel like, the impact that it has, not just on the individual, but, the workplace as a whole. If someone does go to burnout and, let's say they do end up on a work cover claim, or, they do have significant time of, off work, it just reiterating the importance of, keeping people healthy and preventing burnout. I agree, Tessa. I do think that workplaces should make room for fun activities. We do, one of our values is Friday Fun, and that is every month we do, a monthly activity with the team. And I think that, making sure that we all work hard, but being able to, switch off and have that time to, either celebrate, and actually be able to recognize that you have worked hard and, have some enjoyment with the team that you work with. All good. Amazing. Well, that is all for today. And if, of course, you have any additional questions or anything that, you wanted to get some more information on what recovery partners can do, potentially you might have some individuals or, within your business that you are concerned about, please reach out to recovery partners at that email. But I know that, you will be sent something after this as well. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day and week, but also remember to do your burnout preventer this week and make sure that you prioritise yourself.